In this video, we're going to show you how to build a very small Umple system demonstrating Umple syntax using the Umple Online tool. Remember, you can also use Eclipse to do most of these things, but we're going to use Umple Online because it's very easy to use for the purpose of prototyping and teaching. So I'm going to demonstrate the creation of a simple library system. So here is some code. We have library items. Library items are things like the titles of books. They have an author, title, an ISBN number that identifies the book. Notice that as soon as I type this, by the way, over here we see the diagram. This is the Uml Class Diagram for the same thing. Here I have the fact that we might have several copies of the same book. Each of them is identified by a barcode, which is an integer, by a Boolean, well, there's a Boolean which says whether or not this particular book copy is damaged. And there's also an association that says for each copy, it belongs to exactly one library item, and it's called the item. And in reading in the inverse direction, each library item can have many copies, 0 or more copies. And we see that association over here on the right-hand side too. Now, don't forget, I can edit either the graphical view or the textual view. But I'm going to keep editing the textual view so that you can learn a little bit about the Umple textual syntax. One of the things that I might choose to do is to say that, for example, copies have a key, which is the barcode. All I've done by saying that is I've said that there's a unique identification of each copy by its barcode. Another thing I might choose to do is to say that these library items are indeed found within a library. So, a library has a name, and a library is a singleton, which means it can only be one. And a library can have one or more titles, notice the lower bound of 1, and some number of copies of items, these things, which we're going to call borrowables. Now, I type this in, and my diagram looks a bit screwed up, but that's no problem. I can fix that. I can go over here, and I can move things around. So let's move this over here, and we see immediately that we have something which we prefer to fix. Down here, I can grab this association and move it over here so that it looks nicer. I can grab this association as well and move it down. Move the association down here so that it looks nicer. And now we see that copies of items belong to one item. A library can have many titles, but at least one. A library has many borrowables, and so on. Okay, so we've moved that far. Now let's add some more information about copies of items. I could go here and I could type some methods. I could type some more attributes, some more associations. But one of the things that is important to know about Umple is that it has what are called mix-ins. So I can take another class definition describing the same class, and in this case what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that says that indeed copy of items can have a loan limit, and that loan limit is this is going to in fact be an enumeration, either in demand or normal. Okay, so I can borrow the book, well, a copy, for a normal length of time or for a shorter length of time if it's in demand. So this is an enumeration, and if we generated code, we would see that I can set this copy to be an in-demand copy or a normal copy. Now, we can extend this notion of enumerations one step further. We can add what we call state machines. I'm going to add a state machine called availability. I'm going to just take the text that I've prepared and I'm going to type this in, and I'm going to walk you through this. Okay, availability. Now, right now, you don't see any change because on the right-hand side, you're just seeing a class diagram. What we see here is that, well, the availability can be either available or unavailable. If it's available, you can check the book out. Checkout occurs, the book gets checked out. Or, if it's available, it can also be reported missing. Somebody stole it, in which case we're going to mark it as lost. Now, where are checked out and lost? Well, they're two different types of unavailability. Checked out is one, lost is another. And there's a third kind of unavailability, being repaired. Each of these is a state. In fact, available is a state, unavailable is another state, and within unavailable we have either checked out, being repaired, or lost. Now, when I'm being repaired, when I've finished being repaired, then I'm going to execute some code. This is the exit action for this state, and I'm going to execute this Java code, set is damaged false, which will set this variable is damaged. Further down, I see that I've got some events that can occur anytime I'm in the unavailable state. For example, if return item occurs and it's not damaged, I'm going to make the copy available again. This is called a guard in UML and in Umple. On the other hand, if I return the item, either from being repaired or from being checked out or from being lost, and the book is damaged, then I'm going to go into being repaired state. And only when I get out of being repaired state will I set this is damaged back to false. I can also discard the book, which will put me into yet another top-level state, discarded. So you see here in this example some UML state machines as well as UML attributes and associations. Let's generate the code in Java for this. Here we go, generate code. And it will take a few seconds, but down below we will then see the code. Now, this says, please do not edit this code. So, as we said in the last video, this should be treated as machine code or as bytecode, but we've made it lookable at. You can read it in order to get a sense of confidence that this code does the right thing. Notice that this Umple filled about one page. Let's just scroll down for a moment and see how many lines of Java have been generated. 801 lines of Java that you did not have to write yourself have been generated. There's quite a lot of useful methods there. One thing I'm going to do is, rather than walk you through the entire thing, I'm just going to show you a few highlights. So you'll notice that class library has the singleton pattern implemented. So we have a static variable, the instance. We also have a list of titles and a list of borrowables. We have a constructor. We have setName, getName for changing the attributes. And further down we have getBorrowables as an example of code to get the associations. Okay, this will return an unmodifiable list. The only way you should manage the association data is through the API that Umple has generated. So how do we look at that API? Well, we can go generate some Java.doc. If you were in Eclipse, you would have 3 Java files. This particular interface gives you a total of, well, 1 file. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this into a terminal. I'm going to say, I'm going to just put it into a file. I'm going to split at p the word please. This file we just created. We now will see that we have 3 files. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this up. I'm going to say for each of those files, I'm going to say move $x dot Java. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say Java doc star dot Java, and then I'm going to say open index.html, and it will bring us into the Java doc for what we just created. So for example, let's take a look at the most interesting class, copy of item. I have method check out the book, delete, discard. These are all events that you can call to change the states. I've got equals, which allows me to determine whether 2 copies are the same based on the key. Quite a lot of methods in the API that you can use to manipulate this class.